Hey there friends and welcome back. Jenny here. I hope you are all doing well. In today's video we have another version of our mini albums that we're creating with those envelope and card sets from American Crafts that I picked up at the Dollar General. In previous versions we have had a staggered page, a spiral binding, and also a ring binding. I think today is going to be the easiest one to make so far. It has a half size page flip, a full-size page flip, as well as a pocket that will hold inserts. And I use just one set of those cards and envelopes to create this version. So if that sounds like something you would like to create also, then stick with me and we will make this together. Starting with the base, we're going to use that pack of cards from Dollar General. This is American cardstock, and this is an A7 set. So the cards are 5 by 7, and the envelopes wind up to be 5 1/4 by 7 1/4, and there are 6 cards with matching envelopes. They did have a black set and an off-white set there as well. So a couple of different options to helpfully coordinate with the project that you want to make. And I think this is at $3 a really good jump start into getting a base completed and getting to the fun part, which is adding all the fun paper layers and embellishments. So I'm going to start by taking those envelopes, and on 4 of them I'm going to seal up the flap all the way across with some double-sided adhesive tape. Then I'll take it to my guillotine cutter and cut that to be 4 3/4 inches wide. Make sure you hang on to that piece that you cut off. And like I said, we're going to have 4 of these, and that is going to create the pages for that book. And so I'm just going to set these aside and move on to the next part. And for this I'm going to start with the cutter, and then we'll move it to the scoreboard. But you're going to take 3 of the cards. You see how I have the fold here? I want to cut them to be 5 1/8 inch high, and that will allow them to glide easily into that envelope that is 5 1/4. Just gives you a little extra room. Now I have my scoreboard, and I'm going to open that card and see that the original score line for the card will fall at 5 inches. So I'm going to the left of that and scoring it at 4 3/4 inch. And so that way I'm going to wind up with my spine of 1/4 inch. Now I'm going to go back to the cutter and line up that original score line to 4 3/4. So this will give me a 1/4 inch spine, and you want to do that for 3 of the cards. You see I have that here. For the next step, you're going to take the remaining 3 cards, come back to your guillotine cutter, and line that up to 5 1/4. This is going to be your flip pages, so you want them to be the exact same measurement as the book. There are 3 of those, and the 2 remaining envelopes we'll just bring to the scoreboard and score it at 4 3/4. I'm going to go over that twice, but carefully, because this envelope material is a little bit thinner. Then I will fold that over and reinforce that crease by burnishing the edge. And you will do that for both of the remaining envelopes. being careful not to push through that thinner paper. The only remaining part that we have is for the cover, and we'll get to that when we start assembling. But now we have all of the pieces ready to go. I'm going to start with the 3 pieces that we have for the spine, and I'm going to add my double-sided adhesive tape along there. And join these together so that when they go through the envelope, they go through as one piece. I will do that one more time. I'm keeping that tape just a little bit on the side. It won't really show because we're going to cover that, but just to make sure it's neat and tidy. And then here's that last piece. Sliding this over and adding that. So we're going to have 4 pages, but we have 3 sections on the inside. Now what you want to do is come in with your tape and add a layer, probably about 1/8 of an inch in from the edge on all of these pieces. So don't go over your score line. So you're going to do that for all of the pages except where they're joined to go into the envelope together. Okay, now we can add these to the envelopes to create the pages. So the benefit to using the card and envelope set is that you're going to get that nice clean edge on 3 of the sides, so that will make it a much nicer finished look. So now what you want to do is slide that in, and I have found it helpful to have a ruler handy because that piece could get caught on the remaining portion of the envelope flap. So you see how I was able to slide that very easily because I put that ruler in and covered that uneven surface. So let's do that for all of these. It doesn't matter which side that flap falls on because it will be covered very well with our pattern paper. Put it in there and then slide it across. And you would just continue that process for all of these pages. So it doesn't necessarily look sturdy at the moment, but once you put all the remaining pieces of the base and the paper layers on, it is definitely going to bulk this up and make it very sturdy and chunky. So remember to pop that over that flap. And here is the last page. Okay, so now that I've got all of those pieces on, I'm just going to tap it to make sure that I've got them all the way in. I'm going to flip this open and very carefully slide a craft knife into there and get a hold of that backing for that double-sided tape. Hard to see inside, but I'm just pulling that out now so that I can adhere the page to that double-sided tape. And so I'm just going to continue to do that until all of those pages are adhered. Now, I should have mentioned when I cut my flap pages to be 5 1/4 inch high, I also cut them to be 4 3/4 of an inch wide. That way they will take up the same amount of space. So since I have those 3 cards left, I'm going to have 3 full-size flip pages, And I find it easier to line that up along the outside and on the bottom, and then continue to work that over and stick it down so that it stays nice and even. So here is one flip page. I will continue to add these as I work back toward the back, and then we're going to switch to the envelopes. For this last set, I'm going to have my flip on this side, and you'll see why in just a second. Okay, so now I've got all of my flap pages added, and I'm just going to apologize in advance if you hear those sirens going off. Even though we live out in the country, we have a first responder that lives on our road, and so we often hear the sirens going off in the event that person has to go and help with some kind of emergency. So the next thing we want to add are those scored and folded envelopes, and we're going to use these as mini flip pages as well. So I'm going to line up that outside edge with the folded one and adhere these. There are only two. It made sense to me to keep them on the outside covers, and that is why we moved that flip page over, so that it will just help to bulk up the outside a little bit more and be a little bit more sturdy. Okay, so there is half page flips and full page flips. We want to cover our spine here now. So I've got myself an extra piece of that cardstock, and it is a 5 1/4 high by roughly 3 wide, and I'm not really that worried about that being an exact measurement because we're going to fold it and score it as we go along. So let's put some double-sided adhesive here along the spine. This is a good place for our 2 glue combo. So once we get our first piece in, I will pull the backing off and then add a little Tombow just to reinforce this and make it a little sturdier. So I'll just come in with a bit of tape here along the side, and I'll pull just the tapes that we're gonna need at the moment so that we don't wind up with a big sticky mess. And I'll just line this up here so that it's nice and square. I'm gonna bring it to the scoreboard now, and I've just folded it over, exposing where that score line meets that paper along one of the grooves so that I can score that and get a nice crisp crease and fold. So now that I've established that score, I'll just remove the backing from these tapes now. And then I will add that Tombow, like I mentioned, a little bit from the edges so that it doesn't squeeze out. There. I didn't put a whole lot on there so that it doesn't become a sticky mess on the end. I'm gonna crease that over and press that down really firmly, and then flip this whole thing over so that I can fold it and score it here as well. So that same step of lining it up on the scoreboard, increasing it. Now I want to put my tape here along the outside. And I press that into place. Now I think it is helpful to maybe bring in a ruler and just press down in the well where you've created that depth just so that your glue gets a good contact with the base. I would just go ahead and maybe hold it there for a minute between each section. So I'll go ahead and do that off camera, and then I'll come back when it's all set. Okay, let's go ahead and start to finish the inside of our book now. Now remember that we have a full-size flap on the right-hand side here and a half page on the left. And one of the great things about this album is that you have very few measurements for the inside, which makes it very fun and easy to batch create these. So I'm going to cover the insides with the same pattern and then the outsides with the same pattern, just so that I think it will help to coordinate. But if you're using up your stash or you just like to mix and match, then you do you, because this is really a lot of fun to make and you can make it your own. So all of the pages that are full size are going to be 5 1/8 inch high by 4 5/8 inch wide. And so that is going to be for all of the inside pages, as well as the front and back cover. You just want to center that. You're going to get that nice border of the base there. Then do the same for this one as well. It's easier to turn it so the longer side is closer to you. And this is going to greatly increase the amount of real estate you have to finish. Some of these patterns are even light enough that you could write on them to do your journaling. Okay, so remember that I mentioned we wanted to keep that portion of the envelope that we cut off. Well, this is going to be our pocket. So I do have my piece cut to those same measurements that will be for the page itself of the pattern paper. And then here is my envelope. I'm going to slip that over and slide that page in. And then I did add my double-sided adhesive to the outside edges. So let's pull that off now. So that envelope has become an instant pocket. And we know it will fit perfectly because we cut it from the same envelope. So what we want to do is line those envelope edges up along the edge here, because that will be the same height. And to cover that, I just got a piece of the pattern paper, still 5 1/8 inch high, but now it is 2 3/8 inch wide. And that will be for the pocket as well as that half flip page. So just get that centered. And now you have a pocket here for an insert. And I just used some of the offcuts to create those. I had to bring in my own cardstock for that. I did finish the back of that, and this would be a great place to add pictures, and other additional items can go into that pocket. You see there's plenty of room for other flat mementos or keepsakes. So finish the inside of the page, and then I coordinated the pockets with the flip page. So I didn't tape this up to begin with, just because I wanted to get a good crease on our scoreboard and I didn't want there to be tape on it, but it will be held down by the pattern paper, so everything will be nice and tidy. And I've got that same pattern for this side as well. So that's our first set of pages. We've got a little flip there, we've got a big flip here, and then a pocket to hold and insert. So I'm going to continue that same process for the next two pages here, and then I'll also be using the same measurement. So I'll just go ahead and speed that up for you guys so that you can see the whole process, and it will go much quicker this way, and I'll give you a little nice music to listen to as well. So sit back and enjoy that, and we'll get back to you as soon as we start to work on the cover. And now I just want to go over and cover the outside so that it will be a nice finished look all the way around. Remember that our full-size pages are all the same size. So I was able to get quite a lot of use out of the 12 by 12 papers that I used for this, but I think it would be even better to use a 6 by 6 paper pad, because then you could get through that and not create quite as much offcuts. So I'm just going to cover the front and the back with that same pattern, just so that it will be nicely coordinated. And this will be the base layer for the front cover. I also want to add this pattern to the spine. I'm going to pull this a little closer so that I could see over top to get it centered. For some reason that is always the hardest piece for me, because I can't see over it as well to get it on straight. Okay, so now we've got the outside covered, and I want to put some layering on this beautiful stylized flower pattern, just to give it a little bit of interest. And then I did cut a doily. I like to finish the fronts of my cards in a very similar style with all of these layering details. So this is one of the image cut aparts from that collection. I absolutely love the sentiment, and I also love that it's foiled, so that is extra fancy and beautiful. Now I did cut some flowers here for this small arrangement, and I added them to an altered lotus flower from a Really Reasonable Ribbon. And instead of putting a big bulky center, I just die cut one from the Bee Bold Bloom set from Spellbinders, and I paired that with some foliage, netting, and twine, and this beautiful wrinkle ribbon here on the bottom. So I'm just adding that with some hot glue, and it fits really nicely here on the bottom. It kind of anchors that corner. Now, of course, I do want to add a couple of little charms here, and I tied those together with string, so I could add those to hot glue and cover the tops of those cut strings with a vintage button. Of course, our final detail will be some beautifully coordinated sequins, and that is going to be it. So let me know in the comment section if you're interested in even more projects made with this set of cards from Dollar General, because I have all kinds of ideas, and I think that we could show a lot of different variations so that we can make them very similar but also unique. So I'm just going to add these with my Tombow, and that will adhere them and be our final detail for the front cover. Well, I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know in the comments, and don't forget to give me a big thumbs up for this tutorial. You can find links to those first two videos for that card set from Dollar General at the top of the description, as well as for links to all our social media sites. If you're not already, I would love for you to join our crafty little family by hitting that subscribe button and the bell notification, so you will be alerted every time we add new content. And as always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day, and I thank you so much for watching. Bye.